Hello, beautiful beaders. How is everybody? I am so glad you're here with me. I am designing on the mat, and I'm in Lilac Dreams, and I am playing with beads. I'm playing with some amethyst. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to all my new subscribers. Welcome back, one and all. Thank you guys all so much for your support. I appreciate you. By the way, I'm wearing Project 4. That's, guys, I didn't have to make a single adjustment off camera when we finished. Right? I'm just saying. This is just, it's a vibe. Project mode, my loves. This will be Project 5, my 5th project out of Lilac Dreams. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on that cabochon and maybe give you guys a little inspiration and some ideas how to work with your cabochons. So I think that's going to be the next one. But here's what I'm up to, friends. If you guys have memory wire, well, guess what? You're in luck because that's what I just made my component out of. Memory wire. We'll get to that in a second. I'm only using, literally, guys, 3 beads from the bag. You can, of course, use anything you want. And then I grabbed some 11-0 Tohos that I have in a beautiful, just gorgeous, soft frost lilac. Can you see them there? And I put them in between all of my beautiful amethyst cuboids. And they work just beautifully. So here's what I'm working with, friends. You can use anything you want to accomplish this. Any beads and any kind of things you've got in your stash. You can even use a piece of craft wire. What I did here, guys, was I grabbed my memory wire, right? And literally saw where it starts right there. Went right across from it and cut it like basically a half moon. 1/2 exact rotation on my memory wire. That's what I cut. That's what this is. Okay? So again, you can accomplish that using some craft wire. And I then made sure that I turned my loops back. Now, as you well know, memory wire is very infamously difficult to manipulate and work with because it is springy, but it's tough. And I have a very stiff gauge memory wire. But I was able, when I turned my loop back, and I did use the first step, by the way, friends, of my bail making. I want a medium-sized loop here because I'm going to put my leather through. I was able to actually, go like this, and it took me a few tries to get it from going lopsided to get that loop on either side straight and with my loops going to the back. Okay? That's all I did. And what I did was I was able to fit 6 of my cuboids on either side with an 11-0 in between. If you do this exact half circle, that's your count. And then I put 2 of the 11-0s in the center here, just so that that can freely move about. Like, see, I have a little bit of space there, but that's okay. Because, when it's laying on the necklace and gravity gets involved, it's going to be fine. But there's a smidge of slack, and I'm okay with that. Okay? And I took a ball and head pin for this component and just made a simple wire wrap loop. On a ball end, I put 3 of my cuboids with an amethyst colored transparent Toho 11-0 there in between. Hugged it with the bead cap on top, and that is it. And then I strung it on and then finished my pattern. So that's how I made my component. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use our leather. I am going to also be using the 8-0s. These are the 8-0s in the purple luster. The leather does go through those, and the 8mm lilac frost. And we're going to do a little bit of knotting, no clasp, have this slip right over the hod, and see what we can come up with. So let me go ahead and get my beads going here. And I'll put that to the side. And let me get my ruler involved here, guys, and tell you what, because I need to cut this off my spool, my leather. Let me figure out my length. Of course, you can make this any length you want, but I'm wanting it to slip over the head, so that usually means that I'll go to 24, so I'll double it on my ruler. And I think that's what I'm going to do here. I want to make sure also that I have room for my knotting, because I do want it to slip over the head. So if I go to 12, fold it in half. That's going to be right there. That'll comfortably slip over the head. However, I do need to do some knotting in here. So I think I'm going to go ahead for good measure, and I'm going to give myself another 6 inches because I do not want to short myself. So I'm going to give myself another 6 inches, and I'm going to cut my leather there. That way I know I've got plenty of room to work with here. And there we go. So that's what I'm working with. So now I'm going to go ahead and feed this leather. Now again, I made sure that my loops are nice and closed on my memory wire. And as you can see, they're also kind of bent back. And that's intentional, so this will lay very nicely. So I'm going to feed my leather through both my loops, and we'll get that centered. So I'll marry up my ends on my leather and let that come on down. And you know, our leather will relax, guys, once it gets hitting the air, and it'll soften up, of course, as leather does over time. So let me go ahead one more time here and make sure that I married up my ends and see where my center is. So that's pretty well centered. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to do a knot on either side of my loop to get started. Okay, right there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm pretty well centered. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do a knot right here. And I'm just going to pull that down. I think I might just do 2 if I'm telling you the truth. And I don't need to worry about this sliding around because I already centered it right. So I know where that first knot is. It needs to be going up against my loop there. So I think I'm going to do a second overhand knot. And let's get that pushed down. So again, I'm working with 1.5 millimeter leather. And I want to make sure that that lands right next to that previous knot. So not worried about gluing or anything right here throughout the pattern. And so that's what I have to get that started. Pull you back a little bit here. And now I'm going to do the same thing over here. That's what I've got. I like it a lot. And I'm not going to do a lot of knotting here. I'm not going to be doing a lot of knotting. So I think what I want to do is I want to do this purple luster on the bottom because I think it kind of pops that amethyst. So let's do that. And I think I just might go in odd numbers. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm about to go in 3s here. I think it's going to give it some balance. And again, we're not going to be doing a whole lot of beading. We're going to have a whole lot of leather. But see, guys, I think that that makes me feel happy. And I think that pops that amethyst. But it doesn't overpower it. So I think I'm digging that. So I think I'm going to just color block. And then we'll have that pop of the lighter lilac on the top here. So now I think I'm just going to go ahead and do an overhand knot. We're just going to keep it simple and minimalist and kind of boho-y. Just something really fresh that you can just pop on. And, you know, you can always do your knots as close as you want or not to your beads. If you want to have a little more slack and movement, you can certainly add your spin on it, but that's what I've got there. And then I think what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm actually going to go up a little bit. And then I'm going to do another knot. And I think I'm going to just do my lilac frost here. And I'm kind of just eyeballing it. And I'm going to do a knot here. We'll add that color block of the lilac frost. And I don't think this needs anything else, guys. I really don't. I think that we just need minimal beads on this cool vibe. That's what I'm going for. See how it comes out. So these comfortably also go on my leather. Slide these down. Oh, look at that. I have a moonstone in the mix. Nope, you're for another project. And let's see here. We'll add another knot right there. And then I'm going to, of course, go ahead, follow suit what I've done down on the bottom, put that right up on top of my bead and pull. So that knot's going to land right on top of my beads there. Snug that up. And again, you know, that'll relax over time. But that's what I've got. That's what I got going on there. And that's what that looks like. So cool. So cool. It doesn't need anything else, guys. It really doesn't. The focal is the amethyst, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and repeat this exact thing on the other side. And it'll be just a jiffy for you. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so here's what just happened. So I was just playing and realized, you know, when I got over here on this side, that I did not like what I had just done. So here's what I just modified and did. I now switched and put the frost, let me get you zoomed in here, down on the bottom. And I think it looks better, and I removed the gap. I think it lays better and it looks a little prettier, because I was like, wait a minute, Jen, you're not looking at things right. You need this amethyst, you know, and this dark rondelle up here to draw the eye. So that's why I decided, wait a minute, let me switch that around. So I just did 3 frosted, and I also did 2 knots, regular overhand knots, and then did the 3 purple luster 8mm, and then did a regular knot. And I think that that looks a whole lot better than what I just was doing a minute ago. So that's what I came up with. And of course that will most certainly relax over time. Now here's a trick for you guys, or a tip if you don't work with leather a lot. Leather, when it hits the air, guys, will relax over time, and it gets softer and more supple when it's genuine leather, which this is, regardless of the diameter you're working with. It will get softer and more supple the more you use it, the more it's exposed to air. But here's a trick and tip for you, what I do. When I finish my leather necklaces, or any of my leather jewelry, particularly necklaces that have a lot of leather exposed, I will actually do my knots, do my finishing, whatever I'm doing, and hang them up on my lamp or my tripod or wherever on a hook, right? And I will leave them hanging for a day or two. Believe it or not, when gravity gets involved, that actually helps to soften up the leather. So that's what I will do with this guy. So he'll hang for a few days before I start wearing him. And another thing is, when you are pulling your leather out of the package, it does absolutely not hurt to just warm it up with your hands. It helps to warm up your leather a little bit when you're working with it, especially when you're doing a lot of knotting with leather, because it's so stiff coming out of the package. I do find it to be helpful. Now notice, okay, I've just done that a couple of times since I've chatted with you for a minute or two, and look at how straighter my leather is, as opposed to, you know, when we first started, you know, I first started filming, it was like this. You know, it was just all kind of crazy. So warming it up certainly helps. So, little tip for you there, if you didn't know. And by the way, guys, my membership is open, always open. We are always looking for new members, and we're working with leather and cording and knotting right now in our membership. So, if that's something of interest to you, you're welcome to join us over there. But that's what I've got. So now I can do lots of fun things. I could do a sliding knot. I could do a barrel knot, which I was almost just thinking that I might want to do. But I think just to keep in line with what I've already done for this one, I think I'll go ahead and finish myself off here with a regular overhand knot. So I will go ahead and do 2. So I'm just going to put my cords together, and then I am going to go ahead and grab my glue, and we will go ahead and glue our knots. So I'm going to try to get those pretty close to the end here, because I'm just going to end up cutting the tail anyway. Okay, so there is my first knot right there. And then I'm going to do, so when I'm doing overhand knots and ending, friends, I always kind of stick with the rule of doing 2, especially on leather, because it's more slippery, right? Wait, what did I just do? Did I put you? Yeah, I did. You guys probably saw what I just did. I accidentally put him over the other side. He belongs on this side, so he can lay, right? Okay, so I'm going to push that knot all the way up there. Okay, because I'm just going to glue that, and therefore trim as little as possible. And I know that this will slip over the head based on the measurements that we initially did. But before I glue this, I've got that knot snugged right up. So that's all handy dandy. I'm going to grab my ruler just to double check that from basically my component here to my knot, that I've got pretty close to 12 inches, because that's what I'll need. So I'll measure from what slips over the head, which is this portion of my leather. And I am at 22, pretty much around 22. Now it will open up a little bit more. In a couple of days it should. So I'm going to try to push that up a little bit further. And I'm going to do a quick try-in over the head before I glue that. Okay, guys, it absolutely slips over my head. And now what I have here is I just have a piece of paper. And then I am going to just put a little smidgy poo of some E6000 there. And then what I'm going to do is grab a scrap piece of wire, and we'll grab some glue. We don't need much, and I am going to dab it right there. In fact, that's way too much. Let me start that over again. And I'm just going to kind of put it in between those tails there, where that glue is going to land right inside that knot, and it'll dry in about a day. The 6000 does take a full day to cure. And I'll wipe off any excess that I have. Okay, there you go. It took a finger smush. And any excess I will get rid of. But now that is right on top of my last knot. And I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to end up hanging it up now for a day and let it dry. And we're all done. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's the finished product. That's what we have. Kind of funky with the leather there. It won't lay right, but so adorable and so minimalist, right? A very boho vibe. Great for the spring and the summer weather. Just slips right over the head. I hope you guys are inspired and enjoyed today's project. Until the next one, friends, be blessed.